Sup Swaggets? Jessica Jones. I just finished watching the series and I realized that I actually have a lot to say about it. I wanted to start off by saying the TV show is very, I don't want to say controversial, but it's very opinion based. I'm probably going to say stuff about it that you may or may not agree with, but it's what I personally liked about the series and why if you haven't seen it you should watch it. The first takebacks I got from the show is that it was very well developed. The world felt real and dangerous, much like Daredevil, but in many different ways. Whereas Daredevil felt like a single man trying to defend a city, Jessica Jones is all about her quest to confront her own inner and outer demons. She lives in a lonely world, and despite the allies she has, she blocks them out afraid that they will get hurt, which most of them eventually do. The show is overwhelmingly great. By the end, you will feel drained as every episode is intense. The only lingering nitpick I have with the show is Jessica's silly decisions. Whether it was deliberate by the writers or not, Jessica keeps throwing herself into situations stupidly, and people die because of that. Then she'll complain about how she doesn't want anyone to die. This got extremely infuriating, and I think the script might have benefited from another read-through. We'll get more into that later. Right now, let's dig into the characters. The show does really well at bringing you down to Jessica's level, and really making you feel her pain and loss, despite her harsh exterior. This is a credit to Krysten Ritter's performance, as she really does shine into this role, to a point that you forget she's even an actor and focus mainly on the character. She hits every beat with extreme accuracy and makes you forget she's even acting. Other than Jessica, the only other real main character is Trish Walker, played by Rachel Taylor. Personally, I found this character extremely weak, especially compared to Jessica, although Taylor does her best with the material. Again, if you disagree with me on this, that's alright. I just think compared with the other characters, Trish Walker is very underdeveloped. All of the supporting characters are very good, aside from one that I'll talk about later. And you don't even realize how much you care about them until they start dropping off like flies. Yeah, a lot of people die in this show. Two standouts are Luke Cage, played by Mike Colter, and Jerry Harper, played by Carrie Anna Moss. Luke Cage started off rather bland to me. I saw him as just a beefhead trying to impress chicks so he could have sex. As the outside layer was peeled off, however, we discovered more about him, and I saw why the man deserved his own TV show. Through very little facial expression and dialogue, Colter manages to portray a person almost as damaged and needy for affection as Jessica. Meanwhile, Jerry Harper's character had me hooked all the way through. Even though her storyline dragged a little, I was always interested in her character thanks to Moss's excellent performance. Now let's move on to the villains, who we have two of. Yeah, I guess that's right. Now this is going to enter spoiler territory, so skip to this link if you don't want to hear any of it. Gone? Good. Will Simpson, played by Will Travel, is our secondary villain, and I'll get him out of the way because he's not really important. And despite what other people say about his sudden change to the dark side, I actually really liked the switch. It didn't make much sense, granted, but I liked the character much more as a villain than a hero. The biggest problem I had with him, however, is that the whole story is a complete setup for Jessica Jones Season 2 or Luke Cage Season 1. Otherwise, it's as I said. Will Travel is an excellent physical presence, which is even more striking when he's a villain, and his aggressive nature is cool to see. But after that, there's nothing else. Now we get to the big one, the man you've all been waiting for, Zebediah Kilgrave, played by the always amazing David Tennant. Whenever this man is on screen, he elevates the entire show to the point where the episodes without him feel extremely lacking. This man has a creepy, perverted presence throughout, which shines in the few episodes solely based on him and Jessica. The show is definitely worth watching just for his character, but even he has his faults. I feel like a lot of these problems I have with the character comes down to expectations. I thought this guy was going to be Kingpin-esque, with an army of bad guys under his control, which totally makes sense considering his powers, but instead he's very grounded. I don't want to spoil his motivations because I feel like that's a cool thing to discover, but it's really a personal story. Perhaps it was all expectations, but the show built up to Kilgrave like he was some all-controlling bad guy when everything about him is so down to earth. Another unfortunate development the show makes is with Kilgrave's character in the last couple of episodes. The idea is there and his motivations still fit, but without going into too many spoilers, I feel like the last few episodes changed Kilgrave's personality for the worse. Still, the character is more than amazing, and Krysten Ritter and David Tennant have remarkable chemistry, which you usually don't see between a villain and a hero. So now we move on to any more lingering problems. Going back to what I said at the start, Jessica makes some infuriating choices, which reflect negatively on her character, and I felt myself judging everything she did. However, I don't know if this was the point. Maybe portraying Jessica in this light showed how out of depth she was when facing Kilgrave. This was probably the most severe problem in the series, and the fact that I don't even know whether it was deliberate either makes me really stupid or makes the writers very clever. Another significant problem I have with the show is Kobe Minfie's character Robin. At first I hated both the twins. It seemed like they were there to force kooky humour into a show that already had it in a cynical way. But as the series ended, Ruben turned out to be pretty important, and what he does affects Jessica in a major way. So that just left Robin, who continues to be awkward and kooky, and who the show insists is important, even though she isn't, and she's really just annoying as fuck. She makes stupid choices, dumber than Jessica, to a point where you just want her to die. The only redeeming factor is that there isn't many scenes of her, and that Kobe Minfie is really trying. It's just unfortunate that her character is written as a bad joke. All other complaints are rather insignificant, such as Kilgrave's slight change in character and Trish Walker's underdevelopedness. I know I've talked quite negatively about this show, and I know if I ever do a review again, that's probably what it will sound like. I find it easier to talk about flaws in the movie or TV show than I do explaining the positives. But believe me when I say this show is amazing. It's brutal, perverted, and intense. But overall, it's an interesting character study that delves into the subject of mental abuse and domestic violence. Also, you can tell that there's a lot of care that went into the production of this show. Everything from the purple lighting to the little character details that each actor implements makes this show so much better. This show is not as good as Daredevil, but it is very close. It is a devoted cast and an equally devoted crew. Its problems seem to lie in the script, which could have used another read-through. I give it 8 Kilgraves being creepy as fuck out of 10. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the review. I was planning on doing a Jessica Jones montage video similar to the one I did with Daredevil. I'm also planning on doing a Star Wars Episode 1 what it should have been, but we'll see about that. Anyway, see ya, Swaggets.